want to just say thank you all for joining us today. I'm really excited about this, and honestly, my excitement is a little bit selfish. I'm interested in hearing about all three of these entities, what they're up to these days, what's going on, and so let me just do a very quick introduction of everybody, and then we'll just kick it off and turn it over to Melissa as our first speaker. First of all, Melissa Pardun is the co-founder and executive director of MakersEdge. And she started this with her husband, Rick, who is an engineer over at L3, but is currently working where?
He's in Reno today.
Okay, Reno. I also noticed on your LinkedIn, you are the chaplain at Hospice of Texas.
Community Healthcare Texas. They've changed their name recently, yes. Okay. So that's my day job. I've gotten back into chaplaincy.
Wonderful. John Passavant is with us from Startup Waco. He is the CEO, and some of you might even be familiar with the brand that bears his name, Passavant and Lee Luxury Men's Accessories, just in case anybody's familiar with that. Next, we have Gib Reynolds, founder of Urban Produce, a hydroponic lettuce farm, hence the pink foam story. And now, among other things, the director of the 1846 Student Incubator in the Foster campus. And then last, and I didn't see if he was able to join us yet, but we're gonna have Andrew Telep online, and he is the assistant director of the Experiential Learning Commons for the Baylor Libraries and has been with Baylor for 10 years. So I'm excited to have him on the line and hear what he has to say as well. And I know these are abbreviated introductions. All of these folks are very interesting and people I'd like to say I call friends as well as colleagues in the sense of this Waco entrepreneurial ecosystem. So I'd like to just welcome them. And just for fun, we'll do a visual clap for these guys to welcome them. And with that, Melissa, if you'd like to take control and give us your overview, that'd be wonderful.
Awesome, thanks. Yeah, so I'm Melissa, my husband Rick. You know what, I'm just gonna share my screen because I have a great little picture of Rick and I, and then you can see what we look like. I'm not good at tech, I already said this. So here's Rick and I. We own MakersEdge. We're a collaborative workspace and makers shop. Obviously, I'm the one on the bottom. I do woodworking and electronics. Soldering is one of my favorite pastimes ever. Rick is an engineer, so he is the nerd in the space and is the one that coordinates all of our corporate connections and contracts. So that's us. We own MakersEdge, which is really an experiment in combining thinking with doing. And there's a long story about this, but Rick and I, we've known each other since junior high. We did shop for 4 years together in high school, and we are just lovers of doing for self. But it was really when we came into our adulthood and realized that it's not just us, it's really about who we were made to be. Humans were meant to touch things, create things, do things, explore things, take things apart and put things back together. And so we really wanted to share that love with everyone that we knew. Did that in, Boy Scouts, Cub Scouts, Girl Scouts, 4-H, FFA, that sort of thing. And now we do it, I would say, for fun with anybody who's willing to join in on us. So it's really a grand scheme focused around the idea of offering space, tools, training, and mentors. And then we've added this last one in the last couple of years. We now do STEM outreach, which is our community drive. We, with the Cultural Arts Festival, the Art Center of Waco, things like that. And then we have high schools and junior highs come in and do STEM outreaches in half-day or full-day programs here in the space. And it's all based on this. I hope you can see it. The creative process for everyone. Everyone takes this journey that this is awesome. this is tricky, this is crappy, I'm crappy, this might be okay, and then this is awesome. And so what we do in this space is really facilitate the exploration through this is tricky, this is crappy, I'm crappy phase. everybody thinks it's awesome when they come, and then they hit that wall. And so we have set up the space and the mentors and the training so that you can push through and get to the other side of this is awesome. So what are our capabilities? We are a 6,000 square feet of workshop space. All of the space is open to every member. There's no tiered level of what you have access to. We believe to be good at making, you have to be well-versed in many disciplines. And so we have, we'll get it in a little bit. So we have a 6,000 square foot. We have designed it intentionally so that we have hubs around the sides, but a collaborative workspace in the middle. And we're constantly evolving. This is a pretty picture because this is when we opened. I'll show you a picture in a second of what we look like now. But really what's important about the space is that we're about the people who are in the space. We encourage heavily collaborative efforts between our members. All the things you see here, that picture on the top is actually at the Cultural Arts Festival downtown in October. We help lead the Science Fest side of the Cultural Arts Festival. This is some forging we did in the backyard because I wouldn't allow them to do it inside, so I told them I had to go to the back parking lot. And this is actually a Baylor student who made a lightsaber for one of his projects on campus. But down here at the bottom is a great example of what really, what we thrive on. This is an electronics project. This is a newbie who's never done electronics before in his life. This is a person who's really interested, taking a class, has been exploring himself. And then on the right, you see an actual engineer, electrical engineer, who works in the industry, had come in to teach the class for our makers. So it's a great example of just what we're about in this space. So our purpose is really to live life with others as we all share space, tools, time, and skills so that we all have the chance to experience the joy and the wholesomeness that comes from the creative act of making. And our vision is really just to empower everybody to be a part of that fun process, whether it's in a class, goofing off, or running a business. We really just are out to make it fun. So a little bit more about exactly why you should come see us. We have, like I said, this is what we look like now. We've expanded clearly inside our space. We have a general collaborative work area. We encourage everybody to do their main projects in the center of the area so that everybody is seeing everybody's projects at the same time. So the work area in the middle, it's the largest area in the shop. And that's where all the work tables are set up. It's destroyed more than this sometimes. Sometimes it looks a little better than this. You never know what you're going to get when you come in. But this is where all the doing is done. And then we have individual workspaces. It's kind of like the spokes on a wheel. We have a wood shop, a metal shop, an electronics lab, or a computer center, however you want to call it. Then we have a soldering electronics lab area. We have a 3D center or a CAD center. It has our laser cutter, our CNC mill, and our 3D printers. And then we have what we call our crafts area now. And we just opened up a new area in our shop. It's pottery. So we now have a pottery corner with 6 pottery wheels. We offer training now in pottery. Again, our training is to get you equipped so that you can feel empowered to take the next step to push through the crap phase so that you get to the this is awesome phase. We don't take people to expert level. We take them to feeling secure enough in their ability to do that they're willing to explore. Although we do advanced classes in some areas. So these are some general pictures of just some other areas in our shop. We are a Arduino local supplier. So we have Arduino parts and Adafruit, an Adafruit distributor. And then we also have a lounge area that is just centered around people coming and doing work together, schoolwork or class computer. Most people are just sitting on their computers tinkering. And then we have all the general tools you could ever imagine. So that's really kind of what we're about. Skipping that. This is kind of just my favorite picture because all these things in here are things I tinker with. But Maker's Edge is really about getting people to explore things they wouldn't be willing to explore on their own. And then setting them loose in a way that they're comfortable, they feel like they have, they're equipped enough that they're not going to hurt themselves, and that they feel the freedom to fail. We talk a lot, I talk a lot about, with my high schoolers anyway, the whole point of coming to a place like this is so that you feel free to fail, so that you will then feel free to try again. Most people just have a hard time pushing through that wall of failure, but we encourage failure around here. We're all about that. And I'm so glad Andrew is coming on, because Andrew is actually the one that sort of facilitated our partnership. For Baylor University students, it's free to come here now. You can just sign up online, get your pass, show up, and we will set you to training and set you off on the adventure that you want to take. And I put my email up there because we have, if you feel, you can go to the website and sign up as a Baylor student. But if you're a little technology hindered, we can email you some specific steps to follow so that you get online when you need to. And then the space is open to you. Come whatever you want.
Wonderful, Melissa. Thank you. And we'll have some time for Q&A at the end, but right now I'd like to shift gears to John Passavant. And if you want to take over the screen, that would be fine. You're still muted.
Well, I wish I had, okay, I wish I had slides, but I don't, so I apologize. That was
problem.
Great, Melissa. Thank you. I have yet to, I've seen lots of pictures and I've spoken to a lot of people that have been through this space there, but it's awesome. So I encourage everyone to go check that out. But Bradley, thanks for inviting me in this evening. My name is John Passavant, as you said, CEO of Startup Waco. And to give you a little background on what organizations like Startup Waco do, it started about maybe 12 years ago or so in the country, where as businesses began to form around sometimes seemingly unknown areas, certainly there was the tech boom in Silicon Valley, but you started seeing entrepreneurship becoming a thing for kind of the first time over the last maybe 15 years in a new way. Cities and communities for the first time thought, well, this is something that we need to get in on. And the basic principle is, for any business to succeed, you don't ever do it alone, regardless of who you are. You might come to a project with an idea or a particular skill, and you say, I like doing this, or I'm really good at doing X, Y, or Z, whatever it is. Inevitably, there's going to be lots of other things that you need to bolt on to that talent, skill, or interest to actually form a business. A business never follows the same path as another business. They're all very different and unique, but there are principles and guidelines and things that you can follow that will help you along that journey to discover your path. And so this whole idea of creating an entrepreneurial ecosystem really kind of started in Colorado, believe it or not, in the city of Boulder, which is outside of the Silicon Valley bubble, outside of New York. It wasn't in New York, Boston, or even Austin. It started in this little community, which is a lot more similar than it is dissimilar to Waco, if you think about it. Really close to a big city like Denver. Boulder was there, and they said, well, there's all these things happening. How do we as a city help to foster that? And so they created this partnership, and they began just literally with meetups of entrepreneurs coming together in a sort of happy hour environment and getting to know each other, and started discovering these principles of how businesses tend to thrive within a particular ecosystem or place. And they discovered these principles like density is important. Just the simple fact of entrepreneurs working side by side together creates more value than them working on their own. Having a singular place, or a place, even if there's many places, but having a place where they can come together to be made aware of the resources that are available to them was a big principle that they discovered in that process. And so over the past 12 years in lots of different forms, these types of communities have begun to thrive. And now it's in some of the strangest places you would ever think. They have organizations who are tasked with doing this. And in Waco, we have one, which is relatively new, but what the purpose of it is essentially is to serve entrepreneurs. We exist to serve entrepreneurs, and we come at it from sort of a top down and a bottom up approach. And so we exist to not only help create structures for new types of businesses to form in Waco. So we work in trying to build the structures that are necessary for tech companies, high growth enterprises to start here. And what are those structures could look like capital, they could look like talent, they could look like bridges to all the different types of networks that you need to build and grow, strategic partnerships, all those types of things. Because if you're starting a business, the first thing that you do is look around and say, okay, who do I need to help me get from where I am to where this needs to be? And so you go and you call someone and you say, okay, well, I can introduce you to this person, or this is someone that you should get connected to. And pretty soon, enough of those types of connections happen that what we call an ecosystem begins to be built. And so we exist at Startup Waco to foster and to develop and to invest in that ecosystem. The bottom-up approach would look more like looking at the entrepreneurs that currently exist in this region and help them. So these would be the small businesses, the Main Street businesses, the food services, and regular service businesses, retail businesses, the ones I was mentioning before. We also exist to serve them, to help provide and really connect the resources that are available to those businesses and entrepreneurs. So a typical sort of, I guess, customer of Startup Waco would be, I mean, it really looks like so many different things. It is very customized to somebody's need. It could be somebody who's just, look, I need a good IP attorney. I need somebody who can, I need somebody who can help me form the right type of entity, all the way to, look, I'm trying to figure out how to finance my business, and I'm wondering if I should go towards a private equity route or a venture route or traditional banking debt route. And so we just invite people to come in and ask those questions. We do a lot of work to try to be connected to the people, and really not only in Waco, but around the country, that can be supportive of businesses of all types. And so by coming in here, you really are, just a simple act of walking in here expands your network and the people that you know, which for those of us that have started businesses, we realize that it's often not just what you're doing, but it's who you know that can help you get from one step to the next step to the next step. And so, these organizations look a lot different in a lot of different cities. Obviously, like in Silicon Valley in New York, there's so much happening in those cities that it's kind of disparate, and you can walk into lots of different places and see how they're doing it and get different kinds of help. In smaller cities like this one, it is helpful to have one central place. And so what we work really hard to not only know our local resources, but to know that if you have a question, that we can do the work to help kind of just get that answered and at least introduce you to someone. So the simple act of walking in here will expand your network. And that's a goal that we're really committed to. We're, as an organization, pretty new. This was sort of very kind of early development of guys literally getting together, of which Gib Reynolds, who's on the call, was a part of saying, like, what does Waco need to help entrepreneurs? And they were just having coffee or breakfast together early weekly, just talking about it. And that sort of led to, well, who do we need to bring? I mean, it really was sort of just like a tiny seed, and that seed grew, became a tree, spawned other trees, brought in other types of people that could spread it. And that's, that's the analogy of an ecosystem of how one's built. So it started with that little seed. And now, so we're an independent nonprofit. We receive some funding from the city, but we go out and we raise all of our own operating budget so that we can exist purely to serve entrepreneurs. So we might get sponsorships from certain banks or certain organizations or foundations, or sometimes from the city. But our mentality is we'll take the money and the support and the funding and the expertise wherever we can get it. But our goal is to translate that directly into the best help for entrepreneurs and what they need. So we're not beholden to any particular group or any particular way of doing it. We're here to see businesses succeed. And we are trying to make Waco a place for those businesses to succeed more. But I promise, if somebody comes in and we feel like, look, you need to get help from here and it's outside, we will go, and we're here to exist to serve the entrepreneur. So we'll get that help wherever we need it. And we're really trying to create that culture here, because we believe that if more people have that mentality, whatever you need, how can you succeed? And people are giving. Weirdly, those principles I was talking about of what these ecosystems are based on, things like density, things like bridges to networks. You know, another one that they established that was really proven and defensible was that the more that you give to other entrepreneurs, the more you actually get out of that system, which is somewhat contradictory, or seems somewhat contradictory to typical business, the way businesses work. It's sort of, well, if that person's a competitor or they're encroaching on my potential market. But really the opposite is proven to be true. And so we want to create a space where entrepreneurs can come in, can share ideas, can share tips, can help one another, that we can bring in people, and whether they're a successful entrepreneur locally, or there's somebody that could be a potential investor, or they work for a bank and they're maybe just here, they come here and we say, look, you put all of your outside expectations and all the hats that you wear in other cities and wherever you are and whatever your roles are, and you come in here, and together we're on a level ground to help these dreams come to life. And so in terms of how you as students can participate, so we operate a co-working space, which is just sort of our hub of operations. We office out of here. Pre-COVID, we would do lots of community events and invite people in all the time. Right now, just capacity issues and everything else, we keep our doors locked, but anybody is welcome to come in, and we keep a tight track on the amount of people and have certain safety protocols. So it's safe to come in. First of all, if you need a place to work off campus, you're always welcome to come in for the day and just check it out. Everyone come in for free and just check it out. We do have memberships available at discounted rates for students if you'd like. We've got several students coming in here right now, probably, I mean, at least a dozen or so a semester come through here and just kind of work out of here to have a place off campus. But if you are thinking about starting a business, or just want to either take a first step, or you've taken those steps and you're just looking to expand your network into any field that you need, whether it's capital or whether it's talent or whether it's strategic partnerships, distribution, sales, anything, I'd encourage you to come and make an appointment, and we just sit down and we just chat about it, and we sort of see what resources both the city, but also all the networks that we all touch we can leverage those to help you. So the first step is just coming in here and hanging out, and we've got we try to make it as easy and simple. It's if you're a member, it's open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Otherwise, just to pop in, we're here 9 to 5 every day. We just welcome you to come in, and you can go on our website, startupwaco.com, where you can just quick ask a question if you just have a simple question, or just to make an appointment, and we would absolutely love to meet you. So again, thanks for having me here tonight.
Awesome, John. Thank you. Appreciate the presentation. Let's shift gears to Gib. And again, we'll be doing Q&A at the end here, but Gib, you're on, man.
Awesome. Well, first, Bradley, thanks for asking me to do this. And it's kind of cool to get to book into this with MakersEdge and Startup Waco, because I think I was one of the early members of both of those. And it's been really cool to be an entrepreneur in Waco, both as a student and now full-time practicing, and get to see organizations like MakersEdge support people with ideas, and then resources like Startup Waco really help commercialize those. So really cool to be part of Waco. I'm excited to share some resources that are really available to support students, though, and that's where I'm excited. Student entrepreneurship is something I'm passionate about, and that's directly reflected in my work as the director of the 1846 incubator on campus. So I don't know if the students know, but in the middle of the second floor near the entrepreneurship department, there's a room that's sectioned off with the sole purpose of facilitating student startups. What that looks like is basically helping students take raw ideas they have, give them resources, and help them launch companies before they graduate. If I can help a student found a company, a year or two before they're a senior, kind of figure out what their customer is, their market fit, and ultimately make money, and they can graduate and have a job after graduation, that is success in my book. We've had a few students do it so far. I don't know if any of y'all have been to Bittersweet Cookies downtown. Hannah Austin was a product of that incubator, and if you haven't, go get one of the most indulgent cookies that you'll ever have, and support a student who's now really transitioned to being a small business owner. But yeah, my job is basically not only to help assist with the ideation process, but also to integrate and connect our students with resources like Startup Waco and MakersEdge. I can be helpful, but I don't have all the answers. And thankfully, we have people like John and Melissa who are actively growing their networks that I have the ability to tap into and bring students into contact with great people in our community who have domain expertise and can really help us plug and launch and grow business ideas. Additionally, the incubator is kind of, without officially being classified as such, it's really like the de facto entrepreneurship club on campus. If you're curious and are thinking about starting a business, what better place to hang out than in a room with other students who are also passionate about starting, founding, and growing companies. It's an opportunity to learn from them, to also collaborate, hopefully launch businesses together, and hopefully provide a practical and tangible aspect to your time on campus as a student and to study. So it's currently accessible only by ID card swipe, but I'm often in there. I have an office on campus as well, and you'll constantly see students in there. So if you ever see me in there and you're curious, come by. I'd love to talk more about an idea that you have, problems that you're trying to solve, or really why being an entrepreneur is interesting to you. In addition to the incubator and the business school, there's also a really cool opportunity that I don't think is very well known, that Bradley is a great resource to talk more about. But I want to give a little bit of an overview about the incubator that's in the BRIC. I don't know if everyone knows about the BRIC, the Baylor Research and Innovation Collaborative. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
So the community, the city, universities and campuses in town, a number of years back got together with an eye of creating a place where innovation and ideation can result in really cool technologies and ultimately companies. And that's the BRIC. And so inside of there are all kinds of research labs, there are businesses that are operating, but there's a really neat incubator specifically focused at like the intersection of science and high tech. So where the 1846 incubator on campus is geared at student ideas, the BRIC incubator is really geared at the kind of ideas that have the potential to change the world in a really cool way using science and technology, both developed and researched at Baylor and the partner institutions, and also businesses that come to them trying to solve specific problems. In addition to having space where companies can operate, there's a handful of benefits that I think are very much underutilized and could provide a really cool stepping stone to trying to commercialize neat ideas. So Bradley, feel free to back me up on some of these because I know that you're intimately familiar, but one of them is just cheap, usable, and really cool office space. You could be in one of the neatest buildings in Waco that people don't know about at a great price. It's flexible, and I think that's just something that's good to know. If you're a senior getting ready to graduate, you have an idea and you want to stay in Waco but need somewhere to work, the BRIC incubator might be a really cool place for that. In addition to it, you have access to the core facilities on campus. And what that looks like is Baylor has all kinds of really powerful tools that they've paid thousands, if not potentially millions of dollars for. And we have the ability to rent and use them at our discretion. So I want to say things from electron microscopes. I mean, tools that I don't even know how to use, I can learn how to use them through being a part of this. And again, these are just resources that people don't know about, but have the potential to unlock great ideas and ultimately result in really cool companies, but more importantly, big change throughout the world. And that's kind of the heart mission of this. And I'm pretty sure they're available for like dollars, right? I don't.
You can rent $1 million machines for a few dollars an hour.
I mean, that's a pretty cool proposition if it can help you figure out something important. In addition to both of these, just to kind of build upon some of the stuff that John mentioned, there's also access to funding. So one of the pieces that I know, I believe actually operates both out of the BRIC and out of Startup Waco is WAVE, which is a Waco-based venture fund. So if you have a really cool idea, you've been able to prove that there's demand for it and a need to raise money to grow, The good news is you don't have to go to Dallas. You don't have to go to Austin. You don't have to go to Silicon Valley. There are active investor groups here in town that can help you fund ideas in a real way. Obviously, it takes a lot of work to get to that point, but just to highlight, there is money here. There's a desire for entrepreneurship, whether it's high tech, whether it's student centric, or whether you just want to start a small business like a restaurant to provide a kind of cuisine that's not available here. Again, I think Baylor has a hand in that. The community has a hand in that. All three of the organizations that are kind of represented here do. If I had a call to action for anyone that's interested, my email address is Gib_Reynolds@Baylor. Bradley, if you'll throw that in the comments. I would love to hear from you. Whether you have an idea, you're curious about pursuing entrepreneurship, you started a company before, or you're actively trying to start now, my job is to assist you and to try to be a resource. So please come by the incubator, get to know me. Let's talk about your idea and see what we can do together.
Awesome. Thank you, Gib. So here's what we're going to do. For our Q&A moment, we're going to kind of do two things. One is I'd invite anyone and everyone, including the other presenters, if you want to ask questions, submit those in the chat, and I'll ask Brooklyn to help me kind of collate and summarize those. But while that's happening, while you guys are submitting your questions and putting some thought into what you might like to ask, I'd like to introduce Andrew. Andrew, I apologize. I don't know how to pronounce your last name. Is it Telep or Telep?
You got it. You got it.
Okay. Wonderful. Well, thank you for joining us. And I introduced you at the beginning, but the assistant director from our library is here. So the floor is yours, sir.
Well, just a moment. I'm kind of at the interstice of libraries, all the things you've been talking about, our subject-specific liaisons and creative projects involving tinkering and making with our faculty for student projects. So we're kind of spooling that up. We were ready to hire a full-time maker in the spring, and that got a big time out. We've pivoted to making sure that everyone has webcams and laptops for the fall, but have been really pleased to have a partnership with MakersEdge for a few years running now, so great relationship with them. John Passavant and I have a surprising backstory that goes back to undergrad and over 2 decades now, and so it's funny to see him here in Waco. Gib, pleased to meet you, and the rest of you, eager to have you come by the library and see what we're doing in the garden level of Moody. We have some digital fabrication tools that are going to be available by appointment, and laser cutter and vinyl cutter and CNC router and those kinds of things. Offering those for free to anyone, provided you get training at MakersEdge. So come talk to us. I'm also the advisor for the BU Makers student organization. If any of you are looking for an opportunity to serve as a leader in a campus organization, sense that there was a gap in interdisciplinary opportunity for makers to come together and work. So that is a new club. If you're interested, please reach out to me. You can find that on Connect as well. So great. Nice to see you all.
Thank you, Andrew. So we don't have a lot of questions coming in unless they're going directly to Brooklyn, but I do see one from Gib to John. I suppose you guys can see these as well, but John, what's the most exciting opportunity you see for entrepreneurship in Waco? Obviously, we've seen a transformation over the last few years. What's up and coming? I added a little to your question, Gib.
Man, it's a hard question. So, and simply in a positive sense, because there's a lot of opportunity. I think that it's very easy to look and compare what Waco as a city is to just whether it's Austin to our south or Dallas to our north or other cities around. And you see when you measure it against those big tier 1 sort of cities, a lot of what the output of Waco is doing, even just from a GDP perspective, is doesn't even register. But what's interesting is when you take and you put Waco in sort of alongside sister cities of similar population, similar size geographically, it's unbelievable the resources that Waco has in compared to other cities. When you think about certainly Baylor, and you think about Magnolia clearly, and when you think about even companies like Neighborly who are based here, and you think about the research that's happening here, just one thing after another, it starts like ticking off at a really high rate. And so what's interesting for entrepreneurs is a really important step to starting any business is how you test and how you verify and validate your hypothesis of your product or your idea or anything. And so you're looking for high value targets where you can beta test that idea. And this could be, again, in a retail company, this could be in a research company, but you've got all the elements and things that you need. You're actually looking for environments like Waco to test these ideas. So I would say what's most exciting, if I was, in my 20s and looking to start a company, I would be looking for an environment that I can effectively test that idea, and Waco has a lot of those resources to do it. I think specifically, you have to look at resources like, research of the brick, which I think is really out. The brick itself is just outsized in its value for a community like this and how amazing it is. And then you have to look at things like Magnolia. And so one example specifically is that we're looking to start an accelerator here for consumer brands that want to start, and they want to, whether it's based on a particular product or a space, it just seems like there is no current accelerator. Think like Y Combinator or something for tech. Think of that for consumer brands. So there really is not, that doesn't really exist in the world right now. And Waco is as good a place, if not the best place, I think, in the country to start something like that, because you can really test, learn from some of the best in the world. And a lot of those resources it would take to start a business like that are literally here. And so I would say that's a really sort of latent opportunity based on the resources.
Nice. Thank you, John. The next one was for Melissa. Do you have suggestions or recipes for introductory projects, things students could try?
Yeah, that's actually one of the things about our business plan we had to change as we've made this journey. Excuse me. We've realized that most people, when they come into the space, they come in for that one thing. Their teacher told it, it's some class requirement or something like that. And they haven't really ever considered themselves capable of learning these things of making and doing these tools, touching tools. And so what we really encourage students now to come in and do is take as many of the classes as they can, because as you journey through the classes, we have 12 different classes that cover all of the tools in a space. There isn't a tool in a space that doesn't have a class. And so take the classes, get your hands on all the tools, and then as you're touching the tools, you'll see people doing things that you think, oh, that's what I could never do it. And then you take the class and you realize, yeah, I probably could. Now, we almost start everyone out in woodworking because that's the oldest sort of trade. And so people feel very non-threatened by being in there. For some reason, I don't know why, because it's the loudest and probably the most dangerous. But, and then I encourage you to take the digital fab, and that's really a great pairing, because a lot of the things that we're seeing right now as far as small business startups in our space, it's where they're taking things that they create on a small scale and then using the digital fab to personalize and create their little niche of the market that they're trying to get into. So they'll personalize it with the laser or add some sort of touch to it that isn't happening already in the market. So really those two areas are probably the ones I would direct people to the most.
Nice, thank you. Last question for Gib. What kinds of businesses have you seen students start over the years?
Yeah, I think I appreciate the creativity of Baylor students because we've had a huge variety of ideas. Just to highlight some of the ones that I think have done really well. We had a group of students that were a mixture of entrepreneurship and fashion merchandising, partner together, gain the license to sell the official Baylor plaid. So I don't know if y'all know, but we have a green and gold plaid that was created across about a 10-year process. A few Baylor presidents had input, a bunch of students and professors did, but they got the exclusive rights to create products and sell them in that. It ended up getting purchased by one of the members. He and his twin brother were able to grow it and ultimately sell it for, a few six figures a couple years after they graduated. Really cool success story. They've both gone on to start other companies. So I think it was a cool spark of entrepreneurship for them. Additionally, like I said, we've had bittersweet cookies, probably the best food example that's come out of there. We've had students start cold tub companies that have now partnered with NFL teams to help with, recovery after practices and games. I've had students do miniaturized hydroponic food systems they put into elementary schools so that kids can learn about what it takes to actually grow the food that we consume. Really, the ideas are across the board. And that's one of the neat things about a school that's got as much resource and activity as Baylor. And a cool highlight of Waco is it's not just one kind of business that works here. So, to also kind of answer the question that Brooklyn asked, in addition to like what businesses have worked, what's my advice? Just start something. If there's something that you're passionate about or interested in, take advantage of the resources that are available on this call and just learn by doing, because that is going to really be an indicator for how the prospect of being an entrepreneur, an innovator, or a creator will really play out in your life. And so roll your sleeves up and try something. It's kind of my advice.
Awesome. Let me pass that same question from Brooklyn over to John and or Melissa. Any recommendations for to students who might be trying to balance the ambition to start a business and schoolwork?
Go ahead, Melissa.
Woo! Well, so what I would say is it does not take a lot of time to have a great idea. It takes time to bring the idea to market. And so if you will just start with the stewing on your great idea in your free time, and then start talking to other people about your great idea, then eventually what you will find is a path open up for you and connecting to people and finding a way that happen. If it really is a great idea, the road for you Baylor has so many resources that the opportunity for you to bring that to people who can help you converse about how to bring it to market will naturally fall into place. It is, I always joke, I chose to have all three of my kids while I was in college because that's the most free time you'll ever have. So I'm not the one to say, oh, in college I'm so busy I don't have enough free time. The fact is, you will find ways to prioritize. And when you're single and in school and you're passionate, the world is open up to you. Just connect to the right people and you can make it happen.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, John, did you want to add? I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say, I completely agree with that. I think I'm a fan of that feeling of being pulled into something versus trying to force something. A big idea, a business, it's going to require so much. You want to feel that draw. You want it to be irresistible in a sense, but you can just take one step that feels manageable in the beginning until you get to the point where you say, I need to explore this. I need to take this to the end. I need to keep pushing it. So you don't need to sort of swallow the whole pill at once. You just need to take that one step and then the next step and then the next step. And that's how the journey happens.
Nice. Well, guys, I just want to say thank you to our three presenters, Melissa, Gib, and John. Thank you guys for joining us today. Andrew, thank you for joining us from the libraries. I did notice just a couple of guests on here. Riley, thank you for joining us. And Joe Dondelinger from School of Engineering. Appreciate you guys. Rick Pardun, a very late addition, but we got you. So I just want to say thank you to all the students for your participation. If anybody wants to follow up, I'm happy to make connections and transfer any remaining questions or open questions that come up. So with that, I'd just like to give a visual or audible thank you to our guests. So
Thank you
guys.
Thanks for having us.
I really appreciate it. Thanks for taking the time. Good night.